Jim, Mauricio, Lynn, got everyone. Look at this. Looks like a party already. Matt Parker, Matt Parker knows the thing, the evening that we won't discuss last night. You were there too. Oh, there's
actually, I was on 3 different Zoom meetings last night, so you'll have to be a little more specific.
Yeah, the one that went till midnight when you dropped off.
You
dropped off at midnight, but me and Joe stayed till the bitter end.
Oh, you two are a glutton for punishment.
I know. Joe's the masochist.
Oh, I was on mute. You should have seen how pissed off Jamie was by the time he got to go.
So, brother Ben Sorensen and I were live.
We're live on YouTube, guys. So FYI.
Okay, thanks, me.
I will shut up now.
And I'm posting it to Facebook now.
So, Worshipful, you figured out the last 2 that I didn't know? You figured out the last 2, Worshipful? I sent you an email saying I could vouch for a bunch of them, but not those last 2.
Hey, Worshipful, I got the link off your, once you hit live, so you're good.
Jeremy reminds me of, remember when there was a Star Trek and then there was going to be an evil Spock or an evil Kirk and they always grew a goatee? That's Jeremy now. Jeremy reminds me of, remember when there was a Star Trek and then there was going to be an evil Spock or an evil Kirk and they always grew a goatee? There's like a time delay.
Yeah,
there's a time delay of some kind.
That was
There's
weird.
a parallel universe when they go in and they Kirk's got like the green shirt and the sash around him or something.
Oh, I did like those.
So everybody, it's a 20-second delay, so don't have YouTube and Zoom open at the same time if you are, or have one muted.
There's a parallel universe when they go in and.
So if you're on Zoom, hang up YouTube, right?
Okay.
Jeremy, you're like the clipothic version of yourself.
Interesting. We'll have to talk about that sometime.
I know. You are on my list. You are first and foremost. I'm worried what you're going to find out, though. I feel like if I go on your couch, it's you're going to get into all these Freudian issues that I have that I've been trying to suppress for these many years.
Don't worry about it. I've got the same issues, so we'll be comfortable, sharing.
All right.
Yeah.
We're broken in the same way, as me and my ex used to say.
That's right.
Lynn, how are you guys doing? How's American 57 treating you? You guys doing some good stuff online?
Yeah, we definitely are doing some good stuff online. We probably have at least at least one session every 3 weeks or so. Usually we try and do at least one social session, and then we also do one kind of like an LOI session per month. And then we've also got like a couple of WhatsApp chats going. We have a whole international group with all of our Grand Lodge
Chapman
folks. Yeah, exactly. So most worshipfuls on there, as well as the Grand Secretary, and so everyone. And that's just a fun. They made it very, very social. So just kind of keeping people in touch and keeping spirits up. So
I saw the movie or video or whatever that was that came out, and you got my worst side the whole time. There's a camera right on my bald spot. I'm just like, yeah.
I saw that, and I was like, "That's Adam."
Filming right behind me. Great.
I guarantee it wasn't intentional, Adam. But I did, to your point, I did say, "That's Adam."
I did love that British lady I was sitting next to. We were having such a good conversation. I gave her my contact info. Sweet little lady from I think the Midlands or something, but never heard back from her.
Aw.
Yeah. Jim, don't fall asleep like that. All right. See friends coming in. I think this is a Jimmy Frederic, maybe.
Panet.
Oh, Jimmy Panet. Okay.
I haven't seen Jimmy Frederic in quite some time.
Oh, I know. This whole coronavirus has really cramped our cigar smoking.
Right? I still see all of the posts, I mean, there's a WhatsApp chat for that too.
Yeah.
Cramped cigar smoking for who?
Well, we just mean like getting together for cigars. All right. You got a few people on, Joe?
Sorry, I'm checking the link now because I closed it. 1 second.
All right. Well, while we're waiting, Matt, what are you smoking? What's your poison? You're muted. What is it?
Of course I am. It's a Rocky Patel. Oh, I have my reading glasses on. Let's see.
Adam, we're good. We got 15 people in the YouTube chat whenever you are ready.
Yeah, it's Rocky Patel Vintage 1979.
Gotcha. I heard I'm a part owner of something new called, what is this called? This is called the Punch Chop Suey. And it's supposed to be all the rage. I don't know. My buddy bought us a box to split. I hadn't even heard of them. Worshipful, you tell me when you're ready. What time?
7:30 is what the invite said.
Sure. Yeah, how about 5 still? I can put up the first slide.
Whenever you get tired of talking and looking at our faces, just go ahead and pop up the slide. Now that Casper is here, you better put this slide.
Good evening, brethren. Worshipful sir, how are you?
Nice beard now.
I love it. This is like a little bit of heaven to me. Like everybody's growing beard. You look fabulous. Look at you.
I know. It's amazing.
Good evening, Kasra.
Hi there, how are you?
Long time no see.
I know, and how's everything going?
Most excellent. Thank you for asking.
And do we get to see worshipful Alex Strother's beard? Alex, are you hiding your beard from us?
Is that better? Is that okay?
Look at you. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's kind of scary. How's that?
Better.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, I like lurking in the dark. So yes, lots of beard and even more hair. You should see it. I'm ready to audition for my mad scientist role.
Yeah, I love it. You look like a physicist now.
So anytime you want to wear a tie, you just Zoom me and I will let you wear a tie.
Okay.
Okay. Anything for you, brother.
Good to see you back in town, though. Hopefully we all get together soon.
Adam and Joe, do you know an M. Kinney?
What is it? And
That's,
what?
that's Monica
that's-
Kinney, right?
that's Monica.
Okay.
Okay.
So, Adam, how long have you had that beard?
Adam and Joe, do you know an M. Kinney?
Yeah, you know what? A few years back, I always had like a little bit of facial hair, but a few years back, we were watching. My girlfriend and I were watching. What was the Russell Crowe movie? Noah.
Oh.
And he had this shaved head and beard.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, man, that's a good look. I got to give that a try. It's kind of like biblical. And I used to go for, when I was at my California lodge, I did this kind of like other type of look. They called me the Amish surfer. But it was like a beard with no mustache. And then I used to, when I had hair, it was like very blonde from the ocean. And but anyway, so I said, I know I can grow a decent beard. I'm going to give that look a try.
It's working out.
Yeah, what I didn't know was my ex's, this might be TMI, my ex's father had a beard. And so like immediately, like, you know, something happened and she's like, oh yeah, I like your beard. You should keep
okay.
Yeah, you know what it did? It started in for a Movember, and we were heading to England and a couple other countries, and it was very cold in the winter. And I said, well, I'm not going to shave the whole time we're gone. I may as well have a little bit of protection on my face.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we were going up to
Yeah,
Scotland.
I figured.
What's that?
Yeah, I miss my beard already. I mean, the day I shaved it off, I regretted it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I shaved mine once, and just I don't know what it was. I shaved it, yeah, I immediately regretted it too. I got to work, and one of the girls said, "Man, you need to grow that thing back."
Yeah. It takes so long.
They say beards are good because you keep your wisdom.
That's right.
Now I feel like an idiot.
Yeah.
Don't be so hard.
True.
But when Jeremy first shaved it, and I was watching some presentation that, or maybe you or I were both on a presentation, I sent him a passage from the Old Testament that said something to the fact that neither shall you cut your beard or your side locks, because having just been in Israel, like that's the Orthodox mentality is you never cut that, right?
Yep.
So somehow you're going to work this into tonight's presentation?
You know what? It's funny you say that. I think I actually put a slide in here knowing that Jeremy would be here. I think I actually did, or at least a spot in the slide, like a picture.
Oh, interesting. Okay. See if I can identify it.
Yes.
I'm sure you'll tell me too, right?
If you pick it, you don't have to pay for the presentation tonight. Yours is free. All right, how are we doing on time? 5 till, a couple more minutes, and then we'll put the, oh, I see the prodigal son is returned. We got Hamza.
Worshipfuls, brethren.
Hey, brother.
Well, hope everybody's well and safe.
You too.
Is that an actual photo of you in your background there? With your shirt off?
Hey, Jeremy, now you know why Hamza said what I call him in his presentation with you. Like, how can you help it? He does it to himself.
I just can't.
That's how I picture you, Hamza, when you're not around.
Oh, that's good. Especially now in quarantine, no gym, right?
That's right.
Hamza, how come Nora is not on this call with you?
She's coming right now. She's taking a shower. That's I turned off the video.
Oh, good. It's good to see you guys.
I'm going to have to leave for a minute to see why my camera isn't working.
Okay, Frank.
All right. How we at? We're at 4 minutes till. Worshipful Jerry, good to see you.
Welcome. How are you, Adam?
Good to see you. Jerry is the master of Samuel Gomper's Benjamin Franklin number 45, one of my favorites. All right, just so I remember. Okay.
Looking fancy, worshipful brother Adam.
Yeah, I knew you would be here, so.
I know, that's, yeah.
Just to impress. No, actually, you know what it is? My buddy, Master of Lahatian, Jimmy Frederic, I thought he was going to be on. And if you know Jimmy is like this amazing dresser. Like, I learned a lot from him. He does things like wears like these fancy outfits. He's one of these dudes that can throw together like checkers and paisley and like does it properly. And then he like knows when to like not wear socks and a tuxedo. And yeah, he's a good dresser. So.
Do you know Bert Levy?
I can't vouch for him. No, I do.
I can.
Who's that I?
This is Jerry.
And Hamza and Ed.
Yeah, we all vouch for him. Although I'm surprised the Bert's on here, but it's good to see you, Bert.
My pleasure.
No camera, Bert?
It says, please.
You're muted, Bert.
I didn't touch it.
No, it's Bert.
Yeah, you got to let my camera in.
No, your camera's in. I'm not blocked video.
Yeah, I know. You just need to start your video, Bert.
Let me explain again. I can see you on my computer because it's a bigger screen, and the sound works better. But I'm using my cell phone for the camera. Oh, now it says, please wait. Okay, I think you're connecting. Okay, I'm coming on.
Frank Decker, do you want to hear him, Adam?
What is it?
Frank Decker.
I didn't, isn't that the Frank that just left and said he was coming back on?
Yes, it is. I believe it is.
Hey, Adam and brothers, before we start,
please.
This is Peter Alaferis. I had a Zoom meeting last night with my brothers at my mother lodge in a colonial lodge in Connecticut.
Okay.
And I told them about these great things that we do and why I believe we have such a rich membership. And they were stressing a little bit about not having the kind of diversity and the kind of inclusiveness and the kind of brotherly love that we share. And so I did pass on the link. I don't know if anyone will join us from King Hiram number 12 in Shelton, Connecticut. But they were very impressed, and I told them that they ought to pay attention to what we do at Benjamin B. French that makes the history and the value of our fraternity so fundamentally important to all of us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Adam, it's 7:30.
Yeah, whenever you, yep, if, let's see, can I share? Does it give me power? No, it says you disabled screen sharing. You gotta let me drive for a minute, Worshipful.
Yep.
Gonna make him a co-host.
I think you're
Zoom bombing.
You're sharing yours, you're sharing yours, Worshipful, not mine.
No, hold on. I'm trying to get the people in.
All right. Sending screen now.
Glad you guys in charge of this and not me.
Yeah, Adam, go ahead.
Yeah, I got power. Let's see. No, it says host disabled screen sharing still.
Okay, go for it.
There it goes. All right. Let's see.
What is this all about?
You'll find out.
Oh, okay. Okay.
All right. Let's see. All right. You say when, Worshipful.
Okay. Well, good evening to everyone, and welcome to Benjamin B. French Lodge number 15 webcast or webcasts. I hope you and your families are doing well in these special times. Let me here do something in terms of the sound. Really, it's not. Okay, a couple of admin notes. Everybody's mute. If you have a question, please unmute yourself. And as soon as you ask your question, please mute back yourself. I have to admit that these are very interesting times, but we are, as Masons, are encouraged to think and find ways of getting things done. And as the saying goes, he who adapts survives. And fortunately, we have the resources, not only technological, as you can see, but we also have the people, like the speaker tonight. And that's what we are here tonight to listen to his presentation. As I said, the mics are mute at this time. If you have a question, the ones that are participating via Zoom, unmute yourself and then mute yourself back on once you ask the question. Second, for those that are watching via Zoom, those that are watching via YouTube, this is being live streamed. You will not be able to ask a question verbally. However, use the chat feature in YouTube, and Brother Martinez is actually monitoring the screen, and he will pass your question to the speaker. So with those couple of notes, let me get started. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce the speaker tonight. Everybody knows him, and he is a little bit modest, so he asked me not to give the introduction that I gave him last time. But worshipful brother Adam is here tonight, and he will cover the second part of his occult symbols of Freemason representation, which he started a couple of weeks ago. He will give you a brief summary of what he discussed in the first presentation, and then he will start talking about the second part, which seems to be as interesting as the first one. So, Brother Adam, please take it away.
Thank you, Worshipful. Thanks, everybody, for coming this evening. Hopefully, some of you were able to be on the first presentation, because if the first one was a 101 of the symbols hidden in the Masonic degrees, then this is going to be a little bit more in depth. So it's the last one was certainly deep, I think, and we covered some really important topics, but this one's going to be a little bit deeper, but hopefully it's going to be presented in a way that's still easily digestible. And then I guess at first, I should tell you that this is the first time that this presentation has ever been done. At least the last one in some form or another, I had done before. Certainly beefed it up and changed it up for the audience online, but this one has never been presented before in any form or fashion. So that's number one. And then number two, because it's Ramadan and I'm fasting, I'll probably drop off about 8:06, I think, is sundown, and have just a quick grape leaf or something in a glass of water, because I'm dying. Okay. That said, so like last time, we started with this slide, which says occult symbols of Freemasonry, and occult just means hidden. And we have this plate to the right, and in the plate, and I think if I remember from last time, you can see my cursor if I move it. So, so last time we looked at this plate, but we looked at one part. So we started up here, and really the whole conversation that we had last time was mainly about the moon, and the moon as it pertains to this symbol. And it was about the number 9, and we'll get into, like Worship Pedro said, we'll do a couple overviews of the slides. But when we look at the outside of this plate for the symbologist, the occultist, what it says is, visit the interior of the earth, and rectifying, which means purifying, you will find the hidden stone. So basically, it's saying that if you go inside the earth, you're going to purify something or distill something, and you're going to find this hidden stone. And in the last presentation, we talked about that stone. But again, it was all about the number 9. So, and we looked at this plate, and we saw that, in addition to the sun, the moon, and they're pouring their liquids, both gold and quicksilver or mercury, into this goblet, which is resting on top of Mercury. So there we have 3 of the ancient planets that were visible to the naked eye, because the sun and moon were considered planets surrounded by Jupiter and Mercury and Mars and Saturn. So together they made up the 7 visible planets of the ancient system, or the Chaldean system. And so tonight we're going to be talking about the number 6, and where the number 6 is hidden in Masonry. And so immediately, 7, we'll think of that as 6 and 1. So what else do I want to tell you about this slide? I think that's pretty much the gist of it. And as usual, I want everybody to take away one important thing that you didn't know about Masonry that you hear all the time. So what I'd like everyone to leave with tonight, if you walk away with nothing else, I want you to understand why the junior warden in the South is called the beauty and glory of the day. And so I would like everyone after this presentation, if nothing else, to have that to be able to take with them. And then in addition, I want you to have maybe a different idea of what the letter G inside the square and compasses represents. You know what? Let me see what time it is now for you. Okay. All right. So I had this problem last time. Let me see. Why is that? There we go. Okay. So because we're talking about Kabbalah, or as Jeremy would pronounce it, Kabbalah, we have these this interesting quote up top from Ledbetter that says that the mysteries are the source of our present tradition, which emerged in the 18th century, and the speculative rituals of the craft degrees. And those of us that study the histories of the formation of the Grand Lodge of England know that Desaguliers and others were all members of a group called the Kabbalah Club, and so we know that they were all Kabbalists. Certainly Albert Pike and Manly Hall and other Masonic icons, they all studied Kabbalah. So we know that Kabbalah is hidden in there. And I see I spelled Tesla's name wrong. And so again, last time we talked about the number 9, tonight we're talking about the number 6. So I thought it was important to put this Tesla quote in because it really frames the idea of what we're talking about. If you only knew the magnificence of 3, 6, and 9, you would have a key to the universe. And really, really that's a good way to start, I think, of thinking of this. Last time we looked at 9, this time we're looking at 6. All right. And by the way, Kabbalah simply comes from the root KBNL in Hebrew, which means to receive, and it's like Masonic degrees used to be. It has to do with how it was taught, before this, was written down, and we got books like the Sefer Yetzirah and the Zohar and the Talmud. We know that it was only passed, from rabbi to the kids in yeshiva, mouth to ear, just like Masonic ritual used to be. And so that's one reason why it's KBL, the root means to receive. There's other reasons. So tonight we're going to look at a few things, where the number 6 is hiding, like I said, and also why is it that the pillars of the Masonic Lodge, the Junior Warden, the Senior Warden, and the Worshipful Master, why are they all personifying phases of the sun like Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva do? The sun coming up in the morning and the sun setting at night, and the sun at high noon. So we're going to look at that, and then what is the 6 to 9 ratio in Kabbalah? I think is important for this being part 2. So we're going to look at why this ratio is important in Kabbalah, and then finally, like I said before, I want you to see this square and compasses with the G in the middle a little bit differently. And so hopefully by the end, you can look at the symbol and see something more than you're seeing now. But I'll just say for now, we're going to focus on A, the number 6, B, the sun, and then these ratios. But thinking about the number 6, or thinking about the sun rather, we know that the sun in alchemy, its metal is gold, and so look at this square and compasses, and it's made of gold, and it's also the solar metal. It's not only the symbol for alchemical gold is a point within a circle, and that's the same astrological symbol for the sun. So it's very telling, among other things, that these square and compasses are made of gold. All right. Okay, so quick recap. So start on the left. So if you'll remember, when we looked at the goddess hidden within Masonry, we found that her representation, if you can see my pointer, is right over the groin of this this dude that's hanging out over the tree of life. So that is a what they call a sephira, or an emanation of God, and it's called Yesod, the foundation. And so the foundation is associated with A, the moon, and B, the cube, or pretty much any stone. For example, we went over the ashlar stone of Freemasonry last time, and how that's represented in that particular sephira. So so everything emanates from there. So that sephira is ruled by the moon, and so in the middle we see this card strength, and strength is actually the 8th card of this particular Rider-Waite deck. But because there's a 0 card, if you'll remember, it's actually the 9th card. So it's kind of what they call a blind. It's misleading that it's labeled as 8. And just like above her head, you see the infinity symbol, where the number 8 in ancient times was associated with, woman voluptuousness, and actually when it's on its side, it's, kind of the woman on her back waiting for to be impregnated. And so we see all sorts of like great iconography in this number 8 card. We also see that the moon goddess here, she's overpowering the solar lion. So I want you to start imagining her as the moon goddess, represented again as Yesod. She is the number 9, and then as you'll see, this one right above this guy's chest on the tree of life that says beauty, that is the 6th sephira. I should have said that from the beginning. If you count from the very top, 1, 2, 3. By the time you get here, you're at number 6. By the time you get here, 9, and then down here at 10. So when I say she's number 9, she's the 9th sephira from the top on the tree of life. And the sun is associated with beauty, which we'll talk about more in just a moment. And then over here is the Virgin Weeping that we discussed last time, and the Virgin Weeping is certainly a potent icon of Freemasonry that we discussed throughout our travels in the craft. And but we also see a lot of the fun astrological symbology. I mean, she's right. Here's the symbol of Virgo, and then this is Saturn, which has been historically conflated with Kronos, and we say that it's father time, unfurling the ringlets of her hair, and so on and so forth. And then lastly on this slide, we last time discussed this broken column being a double entendre for the word colum, which means dove. But a lot of terrific symbolism of the moon goddess. And then we went further and we looked a little bit more at the moon goddess. And so in Freemasonry, we have this faith, hope, and charity. Hold on, let me make sure I'm not missing something. Oh wait, hold on. Let me. Am I supposed to be handing this back to you, Worshipful? Let me.
I got it.
Oh, okay. Sorry. So in Freemasonry, we have faith, hope, and charity. As you can see, here's 2 of them around the square and compasses. On this side, you can see faith, hope, and charity. But we went over last time, one of the interesting things about faith, hope, and charity in light of the moon goddess, and all these symbols have multiple meanings. So if I say that, that this is, one meaning of the goddess Luna or Columbia, then it's just one. I mean, so anyway, you see faith, hope, and charity here. Here she has her face pointing at you. Here she's showing you the left side of her face. This is the right side of her face. And you can see why it's like that is because the different waxing to waning crescents and the full moon. So here's your full moon, and here's your waxing, and here's your waning of the moon goddess. And we also went over some of the etymology of the word moon, as it's as we find it in our language, which is associated with the word month. It's associated with the word Monday, obviously the moon's day, and menstrual. So those are all associated with the moon, and yeah, all right. And then last time we also went over some of the if in different secret societies going back throughout history, they worship what we call the sacred feminine. And so the sacred feminine principle in Freemasonry and others, we call Columbia, because colum again is the root of the word dove in Latin, so columba. And so the goddess of the moon, you have Venus Columba, which is also Aphrodite, which is also Isis, so yada yada. So, but in America, we call her the goddess Columbia, but it's the same type of thing. And you can see, again, the Hermetic philosophy of as above, so below. She's pointing down at Earth, what we call Malkut, or the kingdom in Kabbalah, and she's pointing up here. So very Hermetic, and she's wearing this Phrygian cap for anybody that studies that. So very interesting. But here is Mary and baby Jesus, same type of iconography. You see, she has kind of a lunar crescent around her head, while baby Jesus has kind of this same one, but we'd say most likely it's a solar crescent in that case. From above the top of the Capitol building, last time we went over the fact that the Capitol is actually a representation of the goddess's womb, and patterned after Capitoline Hill in Rome. Columbia Broadcast Service with its all-seeing eye. By the end of the presentation, I think you're going to know more about what this all-seeing eye may, another layer of meaning associated with it, and then also Columbia Pictures. And again, when we talk about it in societies that worship the sacred feminine, we talked about the fact that sometimes you don't have to use Aphrodite or any of these other names. You could just say that she's Our Lady, which in French is Notre Dame, and in Latin, Nostradamus. But because we are a society of symbols, and we've hidden them in plain sight, we have different ways of representing both the number 6, the number 9, the solar, and the lunar principles. Here is one way that we'll look at these 3 columns in relation to the tree of life in just a moment, but automatically you can see that this one is dark, which is because it's the feminine pillar of Freemasonry and of Kabbalah. And so this is the feminine pillar, and you can see that it has this pelvic triangle of the female here, which is a symbol of the uterus, across from the solar white column, which has the phallus here, and then in the middle, which is what we want. We want to reconcile both sides, what we call justice and mercy, strength and mercy. You have these intertwined, interlocking, triangles, which gives us a hexagram or a Star of David, Steel of Solomon, choose your nomenclature. And also we see in Freemasonry, when we talk about the orders of architecture, there's 5 of them, and we say, but don't worry about those Roman ones because they just ripped off the Greeks. And so there's 3 orders of Greek architecture here: the Doric, the Ionic, and the Corinthian. Although in this picture they don't have the right tops for that, but you could see that certainly there's that. And from what's his name, Robinson's book, Robinson, Born in Blood, he did this. You can see that, the Star of David here, or the Seal of Solomon, it has the dark triangle pointed downward associated with this column, or the female lunar, and the solar pointed up. And then you can see that it's also the square and compasses. But I think this is the last slide on the background, by the way, or might be one more. But you can see that not only is it the square and compasses, but the hexagram is a two-dimensional pictograph of a three-dimensional object, which is a cube, and you can see that down here. And so that's important because as Masons, you know, we have this whole thing about this ashlar stone, and that our you know, that our travels through Freemasonry are supposed to give us the tools necessary to turn that rough ashlar into a perfect one, what the alchemists called turning lead to gold. And so so in Freemasonry, you know, we have this, you know, whole thing about cornerstones, and you can look up, you know, pictures of Washington Lane cornerstones, you know, right here in the nation's capital. But anyway, so when we see this hexagram, what we should do is think of it synonymously with a cube. And so, but these are the hidden meanings where it's hidden in plain sight. And when we're talking about cubes, we see in you know, all Muslims, you know, once in their life are supposed to make this Hajj to Mecca to, you know, do this thing at the Kaaba, which Kaaba means the cube, right? So again, here's the cube, and inside the Kaaba, by the way, you see, you know, here is your three pillars again, right? Your three orders of Greek architecture. Here is your black and white mosaic pavement, but they do it slightly differently. But this is inside the Kaaba. And anyway, but it's very interesting that you think all, it means God. It's the male God. In Hebrew, at least, if you added the H, it would mean goddess, and it would be pronounced very similar to Allah. It would be Eloah. And then, but we see Al-Kaaba, the cube, is Al-Kaaba of Allah, or Kabbalah. So, right, we have a very interesting synchronicity with the word Kabbalah here. And Ka and Ba in the Egyptian Demotic, so the very earliest languages that we know of, or I think it's one of the earliest that we know of in ancient Egypt, called Demotic. Ka was a spirit before it incarnated into your body, and Ba was the spirit when it was in your body, or what we would call it the soul. And so there's, you know, all sorts of like hidden meanings just in this simple phrase right here. And we'll talk more about breaking words apart Kabbalistically in a moment, but you can see that the thing that this thing is housing, really, the cornerstone of the Kaaba, is this black stone in here, which is supposed to date back to the times of Adam and Eve. It's called the Al-Hajar Al-Aswad. And but it is the cornerstone. Again, there's the cornerstone, or the foundation stone of the Kaaba, and you can see that it, you know, it does look like, you know, a woman's genitalia. All right, so onwards and forwards, or whatever the saying is. So now we're going to talk about secret sixes. So now that we have in our minds a little bit of what we talked about last time, which is the moon goddess, the number 9, and the cube. So now we're going to move forward once again with the sun, the number 6, and what was my other one? I forget. So number 6, the cube, and then yeah, and maybe this letter G in the square and compasses. So I added this one to the left just so you could, you know, see, like, we're only scratching the surface on this tonight, but for those of us that, you know, like to get in the weeds of Kabbalah, this is actually what we're looking at. And this one in the bottom left is, you know, you see here that says the Temple of Solomon. The swastika is just an ancient sign for the sun. And but you can see that here's the lunar side, right? Here's the lunar side, that pillar. It's a little noisy here. And here's the solar side. Again, the point within a circle is alchemical gold, or the astrological sun. And that's associated with this side. Here's the male side in the tree of life. Here's the female side. And what we want in Freemasonry, as we went over last time, is to you know, follow the yellow brick road, to climb the stairway to heaven, in order to traverse this middle path. We're all about the middle path in Freemasonry. Also important, you know, to flag here is that, you know, you have this, you know, here's the 2 pillars, just like you have 2 pillars here. when you walk into the lodge and you see these pillars right when you walk in the lodge, generally outside of the west gate, you have the terrestrial and the heavenly spheres, above these two Corinthian columns. And so that's the Hermetic axiom, as above, so below. What in Christianity we say in the Pater Noster, our Father who art in heaven, we say on earth as it is in heaven, but it's the same Hermetic principle, and you can find it in the Book of the Dead and elsewhere. So, but interestingly, you see that in this Masonic plate, or I guess it's a stained glass window, you see that here's the moon, and then I was noticing, these 4 diamonds with these stars. It's the number 9, right? So there's the 9 lunar, and then I figured this one out. 1, 2, yeah, I don't know, and then here's the solar. So again, you'll see that it matches, and I'm going to keep hitting this because I want you to, I want it to stick. So again. So here's the solar, here's the lunar. You can see in Freemasonry, the solar, the lunar. And again, remember when we blend the male, this big phallic compasses, with the female uterine pelvic square, it balances the moon and the sun. As I heard in a lecture last night, no beginning of a lecture is complete if you don't quote Pike, or an esoteric lecture. So the true philosophy known and practiced by Solomon is the basis of which, on which Masonry is founded. That's Kabbalah. That's Solomonic magic, which is based in Kabbalah. So, all right. Following from last time, we also talked about when you come into the lodge room, you're connected to a rope called a cable tow, and you're brought in while they're when you're hearing the alchemical book of Genesis. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and so forth. And on the lunar side, we talked about when you come through the West Gate, you're basically coming out of the profane world. You're coming out of the the woman's vaginal birth canal, and you're connected to the rope because that is an umbilical cord representative. And so that's the beginning of your birth in Freemasonry. It's a born again ritual, just like the evangelical Christians, and you're brought from darkness to light, symbolic of coming out of the womb. And so as we look at it a bit deeper now, though, we're going to be looking at the book of Genesis a little bit deeper Kabbalah, as I'll show you in the next slide, but we're going to keep this manageable. But let's see. So last time we talked about this. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. In Hebrew, you'll notice that this sentence is made up of 7 words. That go along with the 7 days of creation, right? There was 6 days actually, and then a day of rest. And so, like I said earlier, think of 7, the perfect number in Kabbalah, as 6 and 1. And so when we look at this Kabbalistically, it has all sorts of interesting things to tell us. So this word, and by the way, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, isn't really what it says. In Hebrew, it says the beginning created the gods, right? And it's a very subtle but very important distinction. The beginning created the gods, because Elohim is Eloah, like I said, is the goddess, and then I am, this suffix here, is a masculine plural in Hebrew. So it's all sorts of wordplay, because here's masculine God El, here's Eloah, the goddess, and then here's the goddess, which has been plural, like adding an S. So goddesses, but somehow also male at the same time. So because that's a male ending to make plural. So yeah, automatically, if we're looking for the number 6, you're coming into the lodge room. And so now we're thinking of this Genesis 1 in the beginning, the Elohim created the heavens and the earth. But if we look at this very first word, the beginning, it's made up of two other words. So where's my cursor? All right, I lost it. But if you split this word in half, you have the letters B, R, and A starting from right to left, because we read right to left in Hebrew. So B-R-A, bra, which is this, you can see it's also the same as the second word in the sentence, which means created, right? So you could, so for Latin speakers, you know that you can imply the pronoun. So like he created, she created, whatever. So so he or she created, it created, and then this next letter is this next three letters is S-H, I, and T-H, sheath. So bereshith. So if you break it up, you got bara, he created, sheath. Sheath is a different old way of saying the number 6. So we see in the very first word of the book of Genesis, it actually can be read as he created 6. So the very first act of creation was the creation of the number 6. And there's a lot more in here which we don't need to necessarily get into, but I think it'll be important later, which is this letter, hey, means the, right? It means the, and so you have Shemaim here, S-H-M-Y-M. Shemaim is, sheen is the symbol of fire, and you can see it looks like a menorah, or but also mime, M-Y, and final M means water. So it also, so heaven is actually means fire and water, the fire and the water. So super interesting. And this one is very interesting. These two letters here, Aleph Tav, this is the same as the Alpha and the Omega that we say about Christ, right? So the Alpha and the, Jesus was the beginning and the end. Well, that's what this is. This is the first and last letters of the Hebrew alphabet. In Greek, we would call this the word, the logos from the book of John. And then this is quite interesting too. Haaretz, the earth, in this alchemical book, earth is an anagram for heart, which will become important. But you can see that the letters just move that H at the end in the beginning, and it's the word heart. And the heart is where we're going to find the secret number 6. And I'm only putting this in here just so you can see if you feel like doing any of your own research later. So, so here's the number 6, the numerical value 6, and here's the letter associated with it, Vav, and it has a Kabbalistic meaning of a peg or a nail. Now, why that's important is what the pegs and nails do is they join things together, right? If you have 2 planks of wood and you nail them together, they've now become one. And you'll find out that the word, or the letter Vav, actually means and. It's a joiner, just like this peg or nail symbology in Kabbalah. So if we say things like the heavens and the earth, or the letter Vav is what joins those 2 concepts together. And then the number 9, since we're only concerned with 6 and 9 here today, 9, the letter Tet, is associated with the serpent. So if you just keep those kind of in the back of your mind, peg, nails, and serpents are 6s and 9s. I think that'll become important momentarily. So here we have the letter Yud, which is technically the 10th letter of the alphabet, but it's because you can reduce 10, 1 plus 0 equals 1. It's also considered 1, and it's the smallest letter of the Hebrew alphabet, but it is linked to the 6th letter, right? So when we said in the beginning, God, Bereshit, he created 6. Well, how did the Elohim create 6? Well, because all the Hebrew letters are also numbers, the first act of creation was this letter. Letter became the number 6, and it was created from this first primordial letter. So if you take this Vav and you drag it downwards, you get this number 6. So 1 begat 6. In Freemason, we say from a point to a line to a superficies, right? We have that whole thing that we do. Yeah, and so, and you see, and here's the point, right? Here's Vav, here's the point, and again, here is the symbol, right? Well, this is the Masonic symbol, which we talk about for the holy saints, John, right? John the Baptist, John the Evangelist. For those that study astrology will know that this is actually a zodiac. Here are your 2 equinoxes. Here is your summer solstice, and here is your winter solstice. But for tonight's purposes, it is the sun, which is the point within a circle, and it's also alchemical gold. So looking back at Genesis, God went through the series of creations, and they were all just plain good, but on the 6th day, everything got very good all of a sudden. This is the only day that everything was very good. Every other day, God was kind of stoked on what he did, but on this last day, he was like super stoked. So he says, God said, oh no, very important. Remember the letter Vav is the joining word and. You'll see that all of these acts of creation start with and God said, and. Everyone starts with Vav. Vav starts more words in the book of Genesis in Hebrew than any other letter in the Hebrew alphabet. Unfortunately, when you convert to English, translate/mistranslate to English, you lose this amazing, important symbology of doing that. So, but, and God said, let us make man in our image and after our likeness. Again, remember, Elohim was plural. And so this is giving you a hint why it was plural, after our likeness, which, we'll get into it in a bit, but Kabbalistically, it has a very significant meaning. And in Christianity, we talk about the 3 in 1, right? The Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost are one. And so this is our likeness. And God saw everything he'd made, and behold, it was very good, right? So none of the other days were buried, just this one. And the evening and the morning were the 6th day. So again, and then after this, he did a lot of work, and so after that he rests, and so that's the Sabbath comes after that. So again, the 6 in 1 idea. Now the archetypal man, this first man we call Adam Kadmon, and so Adam Kadmon is the mirror image of God, or let's make what do we say? Let's make man in our image after our likeness. So here's God, right? Yud He Vav He, which we commonly pronounce as Jehovah. And you can see if this is deity, if this is God incorporated in these 4 letters, which we call the tetragrammaton, a word of 4 letters, then you can see that this, if you play hangman, right? So here is the Yud, here is the letter He, right? You can see, like, here's the arms, here is the spine, right? So here's the spine, the number 6, which we're concerned with tonight. And this last He, again, are the 2 legs. So normally we read Hebrew up to right to left, but in Kabbalah, we'll read up, down, sideways, backwards. We'll rip these letters apart. We do all sorts of things with them. So, but even at a very superficial level, you can see that reading up to down, it really is the image of man. And by the way, the vertebrae, so again, starting to go backwards, but this Yud, right, is the Yud, right, is right here and then dragged down. Well, the spine, which this represents, has 33 bones, or 33 Yuds that make it up. So you see that the Yud and the Vav are in the human body, and so it really gives new meaning to the book of John that says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And you see that this Word is actually manifested, made flesh, they say. And then looking at it from the side, I wanted to, put this one here because you can see also how this, again, remember, this is the revelation of God, right? This is the tree of life. And you can see that if this is God emanating, and here's man, we're down here, this is the earth. And by the way, this is called the fall of man, right? So here's really, this is mainly God up here, and then the fall of man. But you can see that it's really interesting how man looks when connected to the tree of life. Oh, one more thing I wanted to say about that, by the way, is if you take these first two letters, Yud and Hey, let me just see who okay. If you look at these first two letters, Yud and Hey, is pronounced Jah, and that's, the male, that's kind of the male aspect of God, like all. And then these next three letters, HVH, Hava is Eve, right? So you have this male phallic Adam, right? This is, although Yud means hand, it can also represent the penis. And so you have Adam essentially, and Hava, Eve. All right. So when we say as above, so below, the other part of that is as within, so without. And so when we start thinking of, here's deity, right? What we call in Freemasonry, the great architect of the universe, the grand geometrician, and then here, and we also call that the macrocosm, right? And then here's your microcosmic man. And then we see that, this lays out perfectly this tree of life over the lodge room. Here's a plate, and again, here's our number 6, the sun. Here's our number 9, the moon goddess, right? Here's our as above, so below, right? Here is the pillar of mercy and the pillar of justice, right? And so again, here is mercy, here is justice. And so as you're walking into the lodge room, you can see that it's all Kabbalistic as you're coming in, and you see that this is associated with the grave of the Grand Master Hiram Abiff down here, which is Malkuth, the kingdom, that's earth. And remember, earth again is an anagram for the heart, so you know that there's some connection to, here's our number 6, Sephirah, again, the sun, or beauty. And so you know that there's some sort of connection going on between this one and that one. And when you look at the lodge room more broadly, you can see that this left side is one of these pillars, right? The right side is another one. And remember, there's layers of meaning. Like, we're choosing this one arbitrarily, well, not arbitrarily, but we're choosing this one because this is the layer that we're looking at right now, but you can go deeper. I mean, the tree of life doesn't have to follow, north, south, and east, west. But in this, for this conversation, that is what it's representing. And you can see that the altar is placed right about where this is, right off of the junior warden, right? So when you're traveling from here to here, when you're traveling from the junior warden in the south, where are we? The senior warden in the west, which represents the setting sun. When you're traveling from there and you're going around the lodge room, then you're passing the sun at its meridian height, or high noon. The letter noon in Hebrew, the letter noon in Hebrew is associated Kabbalistically with a fish, like a nun, right? And so as you're traveling from west to east, you're passing the junior warden, which represents, remember, we're talking about the beauty and glory of the day. Well, you can see that here's beauty right here. So here's a hint what beauty and the glory of the day means, right? So here's your beauty. So there's the first word of that phrase. And so again, you're passing the junior warden, the beauty and glory of the day, right around this spot of the lodge. If you overlay this tree of life over the lodge room this way. Okay, yeah, all right. And I guess one last thing is you'll also see that the worshipful master would be sitting up here in the east, which in this instance is represented by this sephira called Keter, which means the crown. And so that's going to become important momentarily as well. In the PFC, Paul Foster case, says it blatantly that, you know, you can't appreciate, you know, Freemasonry if you don't understand Kabbalah. So, I mean, very, very simple and straightforward. But thinking back to the, beauty and glory of the day. Now, this is the eighth sephira called Had, which can be splendor, but also glory, right? So now if you think about when you're coming into the lodge room, right, you're coming from the profane world down here in Malkuth, the kingdom, and you're coming into the lodge room, right? Over here is glory, you're passing glory. So now you have the beauty and the glory, and they're connected right here by this path associated with the letter Ayin, which means eyes. So now you have beauty and glory. And remember, what does this whole thing represent? God, deity, right? This is deity. Deity, the root of deity is DEI, day, in Latin deus, right? So now you have beauty, glory of the day, right? And don't forget the letter beauty and, right? The beauty and, right? And is Vav. So beauty, Tiferet, and Vav, glory, Had, the is the third letter, is the second and fourth letters of the name of deity in the Tetragrammaton, Yud He Vav He. So He is the, right? And day is Deus, God. So beauty and glory of the day, I mean, it's all Kabbalistic. So when we go back to that crown chakra, though, or the what we called Keter in Kabbalah, the crown, what by the way in Latin is corona, interestingly, but we see that on the tree of life, well, here you have behind Christ the tree of life. That's what this is. This is the you can see, like, here's the crossbar right here, and here's the cross, and here you have the sun on the cross, right? So there's the sun on the cross, right? But this time it's not the S-O-N on the cross, it's the S-U-N on the cross, the same as the zodiac. And what's he wearing? A crown, right? In this case, it's a crown of thorns, Keter, right? And you can see that, you know, the kings of old, they all wore their crowns, most likely for Kabbalistic reasons. Here's the Sikh, right, with his turban, the crown. You can see here's, I think this is Benedict 16, it looks like. And he's got, what does he have here, right? Here's your male, and here's your female, right? Your female uterus, your male phallus, you know, hanging out right there in what's called the mitre cap. The mitre cap is associated, mitre is this fish symbolism, by the way, if you look into that. And again, reminding you that the letter Nun is fish, and everything, as we'll see momentarily, is what they call Piscean, or associated with the age of Pisces. Now, our worshipful master wears the same crown, but here we, you know, call it a top hat, but it's really, Kabbalistically, it's a crown. And here is the corona around the sun, right? Here is the crown of thorns around the sun. Well, look at this. It's a crown of thorns around the sun. Same thing. And here's Rebbe Schneerson, and some think he was the Messiah. And but what does he have? He has, remember, the black cube, which cube, remember, is Kaaba, in Arabic. And so here's the black cube, just like the one that we saw earlier in Mecca. And but that's the Rebbe's crown. Yeah. All right. Okay. So now when we look a little bit closer at this Sephira, which here we'll just call it the heart chakra, but remember in Kabbalah it's called Tiferet or beauty, but it's the heart chakra. And you know, what's Christ doing here? Pointing to his heart chakra. He's and it has the heart symbol, and you can see that it has kind of a solar background to it. So it's all sorts of Kabbalistic iconography, but more than that, you see back here, right? Here are the pillars around him, right? So here is the pillar of severity, or the pillar of justice. Here is your pillar of mercy, right? The male pillar of mercy. And you can see that Christ is the middle pillar, right? And right where you would expect things. Here's his crown, right? Here is Keter up here. And you can see that it's solar, but it's a different type of solar, which if I do another presentation on threes, we'll get into why that is. But it's a mirror image of this, because Keter is reflected in Tiferet, as above, so below. So we see that. Let's see, what else do we want to say about that? And obviously, this represents like this, also like the worshipful master, the sun rising in the east, and again, remember, heart is an anagram for earth. So when we think about the very first symbol of the lecture, vitriol, visit the interior earth and rectifying, you will find this hidden stone, right? The inner of the inside of the earth is right here. Here's the inside of the earth, right? The heart, the inner earth. And you can see that, remember the number 9 is the letter Tet in Hebrew, which was the serpent. Well, here it is. Here's the serpent, the Kundalini energies, right? And males have one side, females have the other, and then when they're joined in sexual union, you have this Mercurian caduceus. And remember, Christos, Christ is a title, right? Jesus was a name. Christ was a title. Christos is the Christian one, an initiate. So it's, you know, this is telling you all sorts of stuff, that the Christos is an initiate, and that's why it has so much initiatic iconography. And again, you know, it's your 3 pillars, your Ionic, your Doric, your Corinthian. And then going back to Vav, now if we take Vav and we combine 3 of them, again, Ionic, Doric, Corinthian. So when you got these 3 Vavs, which are stretched into Vavs, you get this letter Sheen. Again, there's 3 mother letters of the Hebrew alphabet. Sheen is fire. And so when you when we assign a value to a letter, the letter Sheen is the number 300, which is corresponds to a term called the Ruach Elohim, or the spirit of God. So now up here you have what's called the Tetractys, and so you start off with Yud, Yud Hey. So you say Yah, Jah, Yehav, and then Yeho and Jehovah, right? And so Yud, Yud Hey, Vav, Yud Hey, Vav Hey. So there's God, Jehovah, that's his name. Now, when you put the Spirit of God, the Ruach Elohim, in the middle of his name, its name, because it's male and female, I shouldn't say his, it's just a bad habit, but male, female, and 100% equal. There is no, neither sex is better than the other. I mean, they're both emanations of deity, and they're equally necessary, yin and yang. But when you take the name of God, Yud Hey Vav Hey, and you split it in half and you insert this fire, right? Look at the fire over here in Christ's chest, and you insert this Spirit of God, the Ruach Elohim, you get Yehoshua, or Jesus, right? So now we're starting to understand where these names come from. And again, up here, there's the master's top hat. That's the crown chakra. And you can see here that this is, remember we said that sometimes the goddess, we just call her Our Lady or Notre Dame. This is the cathedral, Notre Dame de Chartres Cathedral in France. And you can see that all of the chakras are on here, right? They're all hidden in plain sight, as they are, throughout these great Gothic works and city plans. I did secret walking tours of some different countries recently, France and Israel, and you'll see all of this stuff is hidden everywhere in plain sight. It's ridiculous. But so here is, this would be Yesod, associated with Yesod on the tree of life. And you see, again, it's the inverted, it's the uterus, right? And then here's Tiferet, right? And so this is the, here's the number 9. So there's the downward pointing triangle with the phallic upward pointing triangle at the number 6, or beauty. And so again, this is also the seal of King Solomon. So again, all sorts of Masonic symbolism, but it goes back to Kabbalah. And here again is the, here are the Holy Saints John from Freemasonry. Here is John the Baptist, John the Evangelist. And, you can see on one side, here is the waters, right? Separating the waters from the waters in the book of Genesis, but also these are, the waters of your body. You have these different streams within your body. You have the blood, you have the urine and semen, and the central nervous system fluids. And so that's a symbolic of this stream over here, but it could also be a stream of consciousness and spirit. The old Greek name for deity, this kind of 3-in-1 deity, was Iao, which is Ignis, right? The fire of spirit. The A, which is agua, and Ignis, fire, and origo is spirit, actually. So Ignis, fire, agua, water, origo. And by the way, and sometimes it was just Ignis, origo, I-O, right? And here's your I-O, right? And that's the number 10, right? So the 10 actually represents deity as well. And so the point within a circle, so imagine looking, this is phallic, right? So here is the uterus on the outside. And so that's the number 9, that's the moon goddess. And here's the phallus looking, top down. And so the point within a circle is a number 6, right? So that's the phallus. And again, just to keep hammering this home, this whole symbol is the astrological symbol for the sun, which is the same as beauty, Tiferet, and so forth. And by the way, and what do you see behind them? You see 3 trees, right? So the Garden of Eden had 3 trees: the tree of knowledge of good and evil, the tree of life, and then the tree of everything that was pleasing to the eye. I think associated with like fruits and nuts and things that you can eat. All right. Oh, and then I should also say in Greek, if deity, the 3-in-1 deity is Iao. Well, interestingly, these are the 2 Saints John, but they're, Saints John aren't the patron saints of Freemasonry. That's Saint Stephen. John is actually hiding the EAO. It's John in Greek starts off IAO. HONNIS or something. Johannes is how you say it. So it's actually hiding the EAO just in their mere presence. And I've heard that in old initiatic societies, maybe like the Lucinian ones or others, that they actually called each other John, like we might say brother. And here's Pike telling you that the same thing, that the point's the penis and the circle is the vagina. How are we doing on time? Okay. So now with this one, we're going to start really combining the two ideas of the sixes and the nines, and we probably got another 15 minutes or so, if that. But now we're going to look at really combining the sixes and the nines. And so in this one, what's the story you got here? You got two naked teenagers in the woods, right? I mean, it doesn't, to think that this isn't a story about sex is crazy talk. This is, two naked kids in the woods. And so again, Adam and Eve, right? Yud and Eve, HVH. So we also know something's going on here with the sacred name of God. And here's Vav in the middle, right? Here's the and, or the sixth letter of the alphabet, which is Vav. And so in the Bible, when you wanted to talk about sex, obviously you didn't do it overtly. You put it as a what they call a gentle euphemism. And so sex is talked about, but it's it's usually under the guise of feet washing, right? Somebody's washing somebody's feet. That's generally sex. And the other is the verb to know. And so if when the angel came to Mary and said that she would beget God's son, she says, how can that be? I've not yet known a man, right? And so the verb to know is associated with sex all throughout. And so when we see that, this story is about a tree, the tree of knowledge, there's the verb to know. Automatically, we know this is, in addition to a naked boy and a girl, we have the verb to know biblically. So we know it's also about sex there. And and what's it about? They're eating, the fruit, the great thing produced by this tree, which is the fruit of the tree. Well, the great thing produced by sex is the orgasm, right? And so this is, a story about an orgasm. It's the story of sex, and it's the story of them doing something that they probably weren't supposed to be doing. And that's a different lecture I get into in my sex magic talks. But the bottom line is they, and by the way, they're surrounded by all these animals, which have to do with Yesod. Remember, Yesod is the Sephirah over the groin, and it has to do with the animal nature, what we call the animal soul, or the Nefesh Haya. And so, so anyway, they partake of the orgasm, which they weren't supposed to do, and automatically they're disconnected from deity. Because if you think about it, the oracles and priests and priestesses, they had to remain chaste, because the energy, that sexual energy, is so potent that it's used or leveraged in order to communicate with what they say, the Echia, the great I am. And so in order to make that communion, you wanted to hold on to that sexual energy, what the Chinese call qi, what it's also been called vril and others. And then in the East, again, it's the letter tet, or the kundalini serpent energy. And what's the other thing we saw? What's tempting? Telling Eve, she says, oh, we can't eat that stuff. And the serpent says, oh, no. God said you can't touch it. Didn't say you can't eat it. So, go ahead and touch it. But, if you touch it, you're going to want to eat it. So anyway, that's what this story is about. But I say that to say this, that up to this point, what they say, naked as jaybirds, and they didn't know any better, right? And then, but once they're disconnected from deity, they recognize their own nakedness, and they take these fig leaves and sew them together and cover their genitalia in embarrassment, and create what I argue is the first Masonic aprons. And here's some Mormons in their magic underwear, and they're doing some sort of sign, which I don't know about, but But interestingly, Joseph Smith and Brigham Young, Freemasons, just like the Watchtower Society's founder, Charles Taze Russell, was a Mason. And you can see more clearly in this, they have a green apron to symbolize the fig leaves over the genitalia. And Helena Blavatsky in her Secret Doctrine, she's basically saying, like, don't listen to the exoteric interpretation. It's the occultists, don't revere this, what she calls a dead letter interpretation. This book, if read esoterically, just like the book of Genesis that we talked about earlier, it's telling you Kabbalah. It is all about Kabbalah. If you know what you're looking at and you know how to read, the book of Revelations, the book of John, any of these, I mean, these are all Kabbalistic, astrological, alchemical. They have layer after layer after layer after layer of meaning. All right. When we start thinking more about the male principle associated with Tiferet and the phallus, and certainly going back in other lectures I talk about the origins of the Hiramic legend and how it's likely connected to the Egyptian mystery traditions and Osiris, right? These obelisks, right? Obelisk, it means like, what is Ob? I forget. It's like the rock of Baal or the pillar of Baal or something, but basically, oh no, shaft of Baal is what it is. So this is Baal's shaft, right? Right? Look, what does this look like? Here's this Masonic emblem. And so look at this Baal's shaft, right? And then, but look where they are. This is in the Place de Concorde in France. Here's the inside Vatican City. And so you see all of this phallic imagery associated with Tiferet and Yesod. So again, the 6s and the 9s. And now, let me see and not to get too into this, but just interestingly, when you look at these, again, look, here's the moon, right? And so you see, right, here's Cancer, and it's all astrological. And what's this card's number? It's the 18th, which in Gematria, you add 1 + 8, you get the number